Words are far more than mere symbols strung together to convey information. They are vessels of energy, intention, and emotion, and when used with awareness and purpose, they have the capacity to influence minds and hearts in profound ways. Every word carries a vibration, a subtle force that resonates with the person receiving it, whether they are consciously aware of it or not. When you text someone, even a simple sequence of letters can create a powerful mental image, stir emotions, and evoke a response that lingers long after the message has been read. This is because human beings are inherently responsive to language, not just in terms of meaning, but in terms of the feelings and intentions that words carry. The words you choose act as catalysts in the mind of the person reading them, triggering thoughts, memories, desires, and imaginations that are uniquely influenced by your message. Even the most ordinary words can take on extraordinary power when paired with the right energy, timing, and emotional nuance, transforming a mundane exchange into a deeply impactful moment that captivates attention. The mind is a fertile ground for suggestion, and carefully selected words have the ability to plant seeds there, seeds that grow into curiosity, intrigue, and connection. Each syllable can create ripples in the subconscious, subtly guiding perception and eliciting reactions that align with the intention behind the words. When crafting a text designed to leave someone thinking about you, it is essential to understand that the letters themselves are not the sole instrument of influence. It is the combined force of meaning, rhythm, tone, an emotional undertone that produces the magnetic effect. A short, thoughtfully constructed message can spark reflection, replay, and mental engagement, often far beyond the initial moment of reading. The human mind loves patterns, contrasts, and hints of mystery, and words can be structured in a way that ignites these innate tendencies, creating an almost irresistible pull toward the source of the communication. Every text you send becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of their mind, painting an image, evoking a feeling, and leaving a trace that draws attention repeatedly. Awareness of this power transforms communication from a simple transaction into a strategic, intentional act of influence, where each word is chosen not merely for its literal meaning, but for its potential to resonate emotionally and psychologically. By cultivating an understanding of the dynamics of language and the energy behind it, you develop the ability to communicate in a way that is magnetic, compelling, and unforgettable. The focus is not on manipulation in its negative sense, but on mastery, the mastery of understanding human nature, emotional triggers, and the subtle forces at play in every interaction. In recognizing that words are more than information, more than letters and syntax, you tap into a fundamental principle of human connection. That language, when infused with intention and energy, has the power to occupy the mind, linger in thoughts, and spark ongoing reflection that draws someone closer emotionally, even in their absence from you. Every human being responds to emotional triggers, often unconsciously, and understanding these triggers is one of the most powerful tools in creating lasting impressions and meaningful connections. Emotions are the language of the subconscious mind, and they govern a significant portion of human behavior, thought patterns, and decision-making. When you communicate with someone, whether through a conversation, a gesture, or a text, you are interacting not just with their conscious mind, but with the deeper layers of their psyche that respond instinctively to feelings of intrigue, desire, appreciation, and connection. Emotional triggers are those subtle cues, words or phrases that resonate deeply with an individual, sparking feelings that can range from curiosity and excitement to comfort and longing. By recognizing and appealing to these triggers, you can craft interactions that feel magnetic, effortless, and compelling, creating an ongoing mental presence in the mind of the person you are connecting with. Each person has a unique set of triggers shaped by their experiences, values, and desires, and when you tune into these nuances, you are able to communicate in a way that aligns with their emotional landscape, making your words not only heard, but felt. This is why the choice of language, tone, and intention behind your words matters profoundly. because it is the emotional resonance that determines how deeply your message impacts someone. When you send a text that subtly taps into these triggers, you are not merely conveying information, you are evoking feelings, stimulating curiosity, and activating thought patterns that keep you present in their mind. The effect is cumulative, as repeated exposure to emotionally resonant communication reinforces your presence and deepens their engagement with your personality, your energy, and your message. Understanding emotional triggers also allows you to avoid words or phrases that may create resistance, disinterest, or discomfort, and instead focus on expressions that naturally draw attention, evoke intrigue, and stimulate positive anticipation. It is not about manipulation, but about alignment, about connecting on a level that transcends surface-level interaction and speaks directly to the human desire for meaningful connection, recognition, and emotional stimulation. Awareness of how certain words, nuances, and intentions trigger responses enables you to craft messages that are inherently magnetic, leaving a lasting impression that goes beyond the immediate moment of reading. The mind is wired to remember experiences that elicit emotion, and when a message successfully touches an emotional chord, it becomes memorable, replayed, and analyzed repeatedly in the mind of the recipient. This is why the subtleties in phrasing, timing, and expression are so critical, as even slight adjustments can significantly amplify the emotional impact and engagement. Mastering the understanding of emotional triggers requires observation, empathy, and insight into human psychology, as well as practice in refining your communication to consistently evoke desired feelings. When done with integrity and awareness, this understanding transforms ordinary messages into powerful instruments that captivate attention, spark desire, and create an enduring mental and emotional connection that keeps the person thinking of you again and again. Curiosity is one of the most potent forces in human behavior, an invisible magnet that draws attention, stirs imagination, and keeps the mind engaged long after the initial stimulus has been introduced. The human brain is wired to seek out what it does not fully understand, to fill in gaps, and to solve puzzles. And this innate drive can be leveraged through carefully chosen words that ignite intrigue. When you send a message that hints at something without fully revealing it, you are activating this natural mechanism, prompting the recipient to replay the message in their mind, analyze its meaning, and anticipate what might come next. A short, well-crafted text can act as a spark, planting questions and leaving enough ambiguity to stimulate ongoing thought and reflection. This is because the mind has a natural desire for closure, for understanding, and when faced with a hint or suggestion, it instinctively seeks to complete the picture, often leading to repeated mental engagement with the source of that stimulus. The power of curiosity lies not just in the content of the message, but in the emotional tension it creates. The subtle pull between knowing and not knowing, between satisfaction and anticipation. Each carefully chosen word can create layers of meaning, multiple interpretations, and an open-ended sense of possibility that captivates attention and keeps the recipient mentally returning to the thought of you. Intrigue works on both conscious and subconscious levels, drawing the person in without them even realizing the mechanism at play, creating a sense of fascination that is both compelling and irresistible. By understanding the principles of curiosity, you can construct messages that are not just informative but immersive, encouraging the mind to linger, imagine, and seek more, effectively turning a simple text into a catalyst for continuous engagement. The subtle art of creating intrigue involves balancing clarity and mystery, offering enough to pique interest while withholding just enough to provoke thought, ensuring that the person continues to reflect on the interaction long after the moment has passed. Curiosity is amplified by emotional resonance, so combining hints, playful suggestions, or thought-provoking statements with emotional undertones magnifies the effect, making the message not only intellectually stimulating but emotionally engaging. Humans are naturally drawn to what challenges them, what surprises them, and what makes them feel a sense of discovery, and the right words can create these experiences in miniature, sparking a mental journey that keeps your presence active in their mind. This approach transforms ordinary communication into a dynamic process of engagement where the recipient's imagination, emotions, and anticipation are all activated, generating repeated reflection and mental focus on the source of the intrigue. By cultivating an understanding of curiosity and how to stimulate it, you create a unique form of mental attraction, one that leverages the mind's own mechanisms to draw attention, deepen engagement, and foster a sense of connection that continues to grow and evolve in the absence of direct interaction. Timing and alignment are often overlooked elements in the art of communication. Yet they are among the most critical factors that determine the impact of any message. Words alone, no matter how carefully chosen, do not achieve their full potential unless they are delivered at the precise moment when they can resonate most deeply. Every individual experiences a constant flux of thoughts, emotions, and energy throughout the day, and understanding this rhythm allows you to synchronize your communication with their state of mind, amplifying its effect. When a message arrives at a time when the recipient is receptive, curious, reflective, or emotionally open, it lands with far greater influence than it would in moments of distraction, stress, or disengagement. Alignment extends beyond just timing. It encompasses the context in which the message is received, the emotional climate of the recipient, and the subtle cues that indicate their readiness to engage. Messages sent in alignment with these factors act like a key fitting perfectly into a lock, unlocking attention, reflection, and emotional connection effortlessly. When you consider timing and alignment, you are no longer sending words into a void. You are strategically entering the recipient's mental and emotional space at a moment when your communication can catalyze thought and linger in their awareness. There is a natural ebb and flow to attention and focus, and messages that tap into these moments harness the subconscious desire to connect, ponder, and anticipate. Even the briefest text can create lasting impact when it coincides with a moment of receptivity, as the mind instinctively prioritizes and holds on to information that resonates with its current state. This is why impulsive or poorly timed messages often fail to create the intended effect. They may be lost in distraction or met with indifference. No matter how compelling the words themselves are, alignment also involves attuning to the nuances of the person's personality, lifestyle, and emotional patterns, observing when they are most likely to reflect, respond, or carry your words in their thoughts. It is an art of subtle observation, patience, and strategic action, where the goal is to maximize the mental and emotional imprint of your communication. By cultivating awareness of timing and alignment, you elevate simple interactions into precise interventions that influence perception, spark curiosity, and reinforce presence. Every word becomes more than just a message. It becomes a deliberate touchpoint that engages attention, stimulates reflection, and fosters anticipation. The impact multiplies when timing is coupled with emotional resonance, energy, and clarity, creating a seamless interaction that feels natural yet profound, as though the communication was designed to meet the recipient exactly where they are, in the perfect moment for it to take root and grow. Understanding this principle allows you to craft interactions that are not only effective but strategic, ensuring that your words linger, resonate, and repeatedly occupy the mind long after the initial text has been read, and that each future interaction builds upon this foundation, deepening curiosity, connection, and attention in ways that are subtle, powerful, and enduring. Desire is a force that operates at both a conscious and subconscious level, and it is fueled not only by direct experiences, but also by anticipation, mystery, and the subtle interplay of emotional signals. The human mind thrives on expectation, on the promise of something just beyond reach, and this anticipation creates a tension that keeps thoughts revolving around the source of that desire. When a carefully crafted message is sent, it can tap directly into this mechanism, planting seeds of longing and curiosity that prompt the recipient to return again and again to the memory, image, or feeling associated with you. Desire is not simply about attraction in the physical sense. It encompasses emotional engagement, intellectual stimulation, and the thrill of potential connection. The mind naturally gravitates toward what is pleasurable, intriguing, or emotionally compelling, and messages that are strategically aligned with these principles leverage the brain's inherent reward systems. By embedding subtle hints, playful suggestions, or evocative ideas within your communication, you create an internal loop in which the recipient repeatedly recalls, imagines, and analyzes the interaction, sustaining their focus and engagement over time. Anticipation amplifies this effect because the brain is wired to seek completion and resolution. When something remains partially unknown or open-ended, it commands attention and occupies mental space as the person imagines possible outcomes or future interactions. The art of harnessing desire lies in understanding the balance between revealing and withholding, giving just enough to spark interest while leaving room for the imagination to roam freely. This is why a short, seemingly simple text can have disproportionate impact, because it functions as a trigger for an ongoing internal dialogue, a private mental rehearsal in which the recipient continuously returns to the thought of you. Desire is further strengthened by emotional resonance, as feelings of intrigue, connection, and excitement create neural patterns that reinforce the memory and the mental focus on the source. Repetition occurs naturally as the mind relives the emotions and scenarios suggested by your message, building a habitual loop in which thoughts of you become automatic, involuntary, and persistent. It is not about manipulation, but about alignment with the natural mechanisms of human psychology, the way the brain responds to cues of value, interest, and emotional stimulation. By tapping into anticipation and desire, you are effectively creating an experience that exists beyond the immediate interaction, one that continues to unfold in the mind of the recipient, drawing them into a mental and emotional engagement that sustains itself over time. Messages that evoke this level of response are rarely forgotten because they interact with fundamental human drives: curiosity, pleasure, imagination, and the desire for connection. When carefully crafted, each word, pause, and nuance becomes part of a larger strategy that keeps the recipient mentally returning to you, replaying scenarios, imagining possibilities, and building a growing sense of longing that maintains focus, attention, and emotional involvement without any direct effort beyond the initial act of communication. The more the mind engages in this internal process, the more persistent and magnetic the presence of the communicator becomes, creating a continuous loop of desire and anticipation that maintains focus and interest in a way that feels natural, inevitable, and deeply compelling. Energy is an invisible yet profoundly powerful force that underlies every interaction, shaping the way words are received, interpreted, and remembered. Every message we send carries more than just the literal meaning of the words. It carries the emotional vibration, confidence, and intention of the person sending it. This energy travels through subtle cues, the choice of words, the rhythm of phrasing, the timing of delivery, and the underlying confidence that colors every sentence, and it impacts the subconscious mind of the recipient in ways that logic alone cannot explain. When a text is written or delivered with genuine energy and self-assuredness, it resonates on a frequency that is magnetic, compelling the recipient to pay attention, reflect, and return mentally to the source repeatedly. Confidence in communication is not merely about being assertive. It is about an inner alignment between thought, intention, and expression, a harmony that translates invisibly into the text or message itself. The subconscious mind is highly sensitive to this alignment, and it responds more strongly to the energy behind the words than to the words themselves, perceiving authenticity, presence, and intent with remarkable accuracy. Energy amplifies curiosity, desire, and emotional connection because it creates a sense of significance and presence, signaling that the sender is fully engaged, intentional, and self-possessed. Messages written or delivered without this energy, no matter how clever or carefully constructed, often feel flat, easily forgotten, or lacking impact because they fail to activate the emotional and psychological mechanisms that make communication memorable. Understanding the role of energy allows you to craft interactions that are not only intellectually compelling, but emotionally charged, creating an impression that lingers, resonates, and draws attention naturally. Every word becomes a carrier of your personal magnetism, extending beyond the surface level meaning to influence thought patterns, feelings, and imagination in the mind of the recipient. This is why individuals with strong, clear energy behind their words consistently occupy the thoughts of others. They are not only communicating information, but transmitting presence, confidence, and emotional resonance that cannot be ignored. Energy interacts synergistically with other elements of communication, such as timing, emotional triggers, curiosity, and desire, amplifying their effects and creating a compound impact that is far greater than the sum of its parts. By consciously cultivating energy in your communication, you are able to project a sense of significance, intrigue, and emotional engagement that transforms ordinary exchanges into magnetic interactions. The subtle cues of enthusiasm, intentionality, and presence are felt even through brief texts, and they create a persistent impression that encourages repeated mental engagement. Mastery of energy in communication is ultimately about self-awareness, alignment, and intentionality, recognizing that what you feel, believe, and project internally is inseparable from the way your words affect others externally. When energy, confidence, and clarity are fully integrated into your communication, each interaction becomes a powerful tool for mental engagement, emotional connection, and lasting impression, creating a dynamic in which the recipient is naturally drawn to think about you repeatedly, to replay interactions, and to be influenced by the invisible yet undeniable force that you project through every word, every pause, and every carefully considered nuance.